Namaste, Galactic Family, and welcome back to my channel, IndigoAngel. If you're new, come on into this dimension. If you're returning, I sure hope that you have subscribed by now. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can continue to receive these transmissions, these messages. And be sure to like this video, comment on this video, and share this video so that way others can find out about the messages that I share, as I do like to keep things on a higher level of intelligence, using a much more higher ascended vocabulary. It's done strategically to upgrade the light body field, because each word in itself is a frequency transmission that unlocks more of those higher reality fields for others to be able to tune into this frequency and ultimately live in these higher futuristic advanced ascended states of existence with this knowledge. And so, yes, if you know others who are on this frequency, share this video so that way we can bring them into our soul family. And, because honestly, a majority of my content does not typically make it out to the main searches on YouTube. So the only way to really find your girl, the only way is to just ever get so lucky and kind of stumble upon that content that has managed to really escape those activated archon bots of the YouTube black bands. Okay, so yeah, it takes sharing these videos. And honestly, drop it in the comments. Let me know how you did find my channel, since I have been kind of removed from main YouTube searches since about June 2018. So it is kind of interesting how people do continue to find me. I do know a lot of you have come from the collaborations I've done with Jean-Claude. So I just want to say thank you if you've come from the Jean-Claude Beyond Mystic channel and or Kimber Kiss's channel, some of my collaborations. But yeah, thank you if you're here. And I love you guys so much. Thank you for your continued love and support. But you know, YouTube is a big tech handler. You know that Facebook is a big tech handler. You know, all of these major social media platforms are, big brothers here on Earth that are technically working in those coalitions with the beast machines. Okay, reporting back to the rings of Saturn and their little black cube spaceships. So I've talked about these black cube spaceships before in some other videos I've done. I believe I've talked about it in a video I did with Jean-Claude, where we kind of got into that a little bit more. But what these are, you've probably actually seen these before. They're little black cube ships, and they like to show up in people's pictures and people's video footage, particularly over sacred sites hovering in the sky. They usually come in sets of 3 to 6, and they usually typically represent like a tip-off for an area within the grids that's about to go into a descending cycle. Okay, they mean that the vortex site itself is being monitored. The vortex site itself is hijacked, and it's going to mean that there possibly might be implementation of magnetic field tampering. So it typically presents when there is a heightened plasma activity and a tampered or altered magnetic field within the votectual stargate perimeters. Okay, and so when you see these, it's usually a tip off to a decline in events that would take place within that area. An example of this was back in March. We had an abundance of these hovering atmospherically over the Yucatan, right as I was on my way to make it down there for some travels. Okay, so shortly after my trip, the entire area kind of took a big turn into descending frequencies. I like to call these bleeding grids. And so actually I think that's what I'm going to call this update today is the cosmic grid update bleeding grids, because it really truly is kind of where the blood starts to pour from the wound, so to speak, in a lot of these descending grids. So shortly after the trip that I took, the entire area really took a big turn into descending frequencies. So in the way that I kind of see this is I've had a lot of reports from people who've recently visited down at the Yucatan within the last 8 weeks. And they all kind of came back having like a very negative experience. They said it feels more dangerous. They said it feels like they've had an increased feeling of danger while they were there. Like they felt like they were in danger in some areas. And the restrictions have tightened up a lot more. Harsher regulations at Tulum, at Uxmal, things like this. Those are all signs that there's going to be major shifts that are going to take place within that area. Okay, so, and you have to keep in mind that is a major area within the grids, within the global grids, that is a place that's really a cleansing area. It's a detoxing area. It's a place that absorbs and transmutes a lot of darker, denser energies. So if this is somewhat of a safe haven for those that are trying to escape actual descending grids, of course, they're going to go and they're going to locate that, right? And they're going to kind of try to cap its limitations and how much healing or what it can actually provide to the collective. Fortunately, that area is very much sacred in the sense that it has the largest obsidian caverns there in the Yucatan. So, organically, there's not a lot that the controllers can do when there is such powerful natural formations of crystals in the actual grids. They can actually try to implant and plug into the crystal grids. Now they can do that, and they can actually try to place seals over those matrices so you can't see the plugs within the crystal grids. But they are just so pure and so powerful that those plugs don't often hold, and they're often quickly released. So that was something that came through there recently, just some intel that I wanted to provide for you guys regarding the grids in Yucatan, that there may be now being more, we'll start to see more symptoms of the grids and the magnetic field being tampered within those grid cells there. Okay, so that's really how the invisible controllers. So I had someone kind of come at me the other day, like, what is they? Why do you keep saying they? It's because, everyone says they when we're talking about the invisible controllers, the not sees. Okay, these are the ones that really know how to wreak havoc on a human, is to tamper with the magnetic field. They're doing lots of other things, right? There are an entire plethora of experiments and timelines that have been dedicated globally and particularly within the United States to perform magnetic field tampering technologies. This is being done through the secret intelligence web, right? So I can't just say specifically who it is. I've actually been diving into a lot of the research lately to try to decode the actual controllers. And I've been getting really, really heavily guided to start looking into the Saturn matrix and the controllers and the ring makers of Saturn. So I'm going to be decoding that some more, diving into a lot of that research and, getting back with you. As of now, I can really only tell you guys who's in participation with a lot of these agendas and coalitions. We know here who on Earth on a galactic level is participating in the negative agendas. Okay. And we can see that through particular civilizations also who've participated, and also particular bloodlines who've participated as well. So that's on a human level, that's all we can really kind of expose. But on a level of pleomorphic identity, which is what these invisible controllers, these invisible observer coalitions with the invisible observers and the invisible controller coalitions, that's really all we can technically decode at this time, is that these are pleomorphic, and these are also viral on some level, and that these also ultimately may be operating off of the activated demon seed atom in just the collective human shadow, period. So again, it has this Ouroboros type nature where it's just us consuming ourselves over and over again, right? So you can look into some of this information that I have provided in other videos. I do believe the most recent one that I did, I was talking a lot about the secret intelligence web and the experiments that were done of the tampering of the technology of the magnetic field. And I did that in the Pegasus videos that I just most recently put out. So I will leave the links in the descriptions for that. Also, one of the largest tampering efforts would be through planetary branding. Okay, so something that I have learned about through the Dracos themselves Okay, so I want to talk to you guys about this. Sorry, I have to take a drink because I get thirsty when I start talking. But essentially, the Dracos themselves have kind of shown me about this planetary branding process that they do. And I trust me, guys, this information was not willingly given to me because these are their methods in which they use technology energetically to hijack Stargate sites and place seals and tamper with the magnetic fields, tamper with the grid cells within those magnetic fields. Okay. Ooh, and as I'm talking about this, I'm getting, I can just hear like interference, but they don't really want me sharing this with you guys. Okay. So essentially they use iron symbols. This is like the go-to metal to basically brand their seal or brand their running geometry into the Stargate area and the surrounding landmass, essentially. And then that's how they literally hijack the organic material to vibrationally, alchemically shift and distract organic encoding from coming through there. Okay. And this is how they really, continue to propagate and do a lot more extensive type distortions within the planetary field, particularly on the magnetic North Pole itself. So there does seem to be distortions here celestially in and around the Ursa Major, okay, and also in the planet's magnetic North Pole and within the South Pole and Antarctica. And they do this to either prevent flip or they speed it up to happen. So there's a lot of speculation in how the magnetic actual North Pole, which isn't like in any specific location, how that's always kind of moving. Well, there's a lot of speculation if that's actually normal. Because if you look at other planetary fields in the magnetic North Poles, that they don't necessarily wobble. So there is an artificial component to the fact that ours does. And so this has led people, or at least galactic insiders or intellists, to dive in deeper to see here that this actually may be a symptom of pole modification that's, like I said, most predominantly in terms of the Earth grid being altered in the South Pole and Antarctica. Really, this is about the not sees, right? The ones you cannot see. This is about the invisible controllers and their earthly handlers. The earthly handlers would be the galactics that are in participation with the negative agendas. Okay, so Draco hybrids, facets of the Anunnaki, all of these things, right? So this means if you are 12th dimensionally activated, indigo type 1, 2, 3, or a starseed, you're going to take an even bigger hit on your magnetic field when you're entering these land grids that have tampered magnetic fields, because you sync with that tampering device, okay? And you match the weakened field, basically. It's like taking a hit of like an EMP or something into your field. You can immediately feel that weakened field if you come into a grid area that has a weakened land grid magnetic field, right? Because there are magnetic fields that are kind of like hosted like umbrellas over specific cell grids in the grids. Okay, I'm going to explain some of this to you as we kind of dive into this update a lot more. I'm going to get into like some of the terms that I'm using within my map that I have today as well. And I'm talking really quickly today, you guys, because I have a lot of information to get through. I want to be able to get through all of it. And so I just want to share as much as I can, as quickly as I can, kind of go through it as quickly as I can just to get it out. And then if you have any questions, just please drop them in the comments. You guys always can feel free to email me if you have questions. Feel free to check out my website, IndigoAngel222.com. Please check out my services. I do have an in-depth starseed origin reading. I do have an in-depth Akashic record reading. I have AMP sessions, which are advanced avatar master practices, where we would go through everything from energy mechanics to grounding, to taking sacred communion, to sealing and protecting your light body field, to focused and strategic and strengthened conditioning practicing for enhanced telepathy, bilocation, and remote viewing, and grid scanning and gatekeeping and things of this nature. So that's an amazing session to get. Also, I have the seal removals as well, the J seals and the Draco Aryan occultist seal removal sessions. So I would love to share any of those with you. I am going to also be adding a very deep 12th dimensional chakra clearing. As I've been doing a lot of these with people, I think I am going to post a video doing a 12th dimensional chakra clearing on Patreon. And yeah, so and if you're not sure if you have seals, a good way to get started with me in terms of services is to get that Starseed origin reading, the in-depth, and then also get the 12D chakra clearing if you haven't done any deep chakra clearing work. That way I can really identify if you are carrying seals. It does take me to be able to psychically and ethically open you up for me to be able to see if you are holding particular seals. A lot of people are not necessarily ready for the Draco Aryan occultist seals because they are very heavy within the collective trauma body of the earth. So only those who are very advanced or have already had a J seal removal and can also self-identify if they feel that they are carrying the Draco Aryan occultist seals. Okay. So having that said, I'm going to keep going. So basically, yeah. So this weakened magnetic field, right? This is really affecting many through control cells. Okay. It's cells in which you are controlled by a particular frequency. You can also see control cells as cell phones, right? There's this breaking down of the magnetic field also within the 5G, within the heightened exposure to radiation, particular grid structures within the earth living in high elevation. They're going to have a higher exposure to that type of magnetic field breakdown. So that's going to play a part in the diversity of the descending grids or the bleeding grids here in the United States, particularly Denver kind of being one that exemplifies that. Okay. So this is kind of really playing out on a multidimensional level, a multi-tiered affecting the magnetic biochemical inundation to human beings here within the United States and the differences as well, all the way down to the Yucatan. Okay, this is really happening globally. This is really happening internationally, but I'm just going to focus my energy today here on the United States because there is so much minute data, like quantum data, subatomic data, just within this entire nation, that just this video alone would take me probably several sectors to actually break down this and decode this information. So currently, what I have been seeing psychically is that there have been a lot of sightings of the Black Cube spaceships recently over Kauai, Hawaii. It was almost as if they were like going in to try to basically see what they could do there because they want to tap that. They want to cap that location really, really bad. The invisible controllers. Okay. They want it because it is such a powerful location. It is the 13th planetary stargate here on the Earth. It is the ring of fire. It is the center point, vortex point between all moving tectonic plates that come and meet as a ring. Okay, so it's where really all of the planetary force is located. This is within the Pacific Ocean. I've been getting a lot of visions of this area being that they're trying to tap into it, but I'm seeing it's such a harder location here for the negatives to distort because this is an area highly protected by golden magenta orders. This is the true planetary holy Mecca. Okay. This really, really, really is. This is no man-made stuff. This is no Kaaba. Okay. This is really the organic force of our planet. Okay. And within this ring of fire, there is a golden etheric ring of fire. Okay. That really protects this space in the Pacific that comes right. It's a transmission that comes right through the ring of fire, through the golden fire, into the grand central sun that basically holds the center flame matrices in the planet. Okay. And so because of that, this is the fastest highest frequency traveling around the world. And this is the where the earth really clears the grid and actually rebirths the new world. Okay, so Starseeds, if you need healing at this time and you can't actually get anywhere to heal, trust me, you want to send your energy into the ring of fire. The movement of the tectonic plates alone here will vibrate through your entire etheric body, just clearing your entire template. Okay, it's a complete universal tree of life clearing. And so, yeah, you can always, bilocate your energy. You can always remote view. You can bring your consciousness into this field. I felt it earlier, and this is why I prompted to tell you this now, is because I was there this morning, and it was I could feel the ripples running through my etheric body. And also they have volcano gods down there that are very protective because of the interdimensional portals that reside in the Polynesian Triangle. These are like volcanic guardians that carry orders beyond the Seraphi or the Elohim. They're on an entirely different, like, elemental chemical composition of like spiritual consciousness within the Earth's astral body. Okay. And so what they are emitting here is they're carrying the highest orders on the earth, period. Okay. These are the guardians that are closest to the gods. Okay. And so because of that, they have a lot to do with mass consciousness and morphogenesis. And this basically encodes the instruction set of the planetary grid network that alters how consciousness energy actually becomes matter on this earth plane. So it really is acting as that gateway or that doorway from the subatomic to the pre-matter. Okay. And it's the building blocks of this. And there's also a lot of carbon in this area, which I found to be interesting. And against this lower dimensional scale that we have, I'm kind of finding some of the alchemical compositions don't necessarily completely align. So, in that, what I'm seeing is that the carbon here actually has a more of a euphoric and more of releasing of gravity vibration here. Even though carbon has been most associated with like first dimensional reality fields and things like this. So it has a higher ascended, the carbon-based structures and atoms and molecules here have a higher ascended frequency, which is just interesting. It's interesting to notate. So I think it's running a different type of carbon, to be honest with you. But it's holding the birthing blueprints to all the landmass. Okay, so basically this is the birth canal. This is birthing the new world. This is birthing incoming seed races. And this birth really does demand transformation. And transformation right now is what we are getting. We are getting transformation. So like I said, guys, we really can see a lot of this, good and bad, as the Ouroboros here, that we're, constantly just rebirthing and just kind of like eating ourselves over and over and over again. And again, I'm relating that in some ways to the invisible controllers as well. So there's, we can take the victimized route, which is, just going around pointing the finger saying who all's involved and who is the dark shadow. But then there's also this other part of your consciousness that comes in and wants to actually take responsibility for things too. So that's where we kind of get into that. But what I'm feeling there is a lot of heavy Hydra transmissions, Pleiadian, Arcturian. These all link into the Nazca lines, Machu Picchu, Lake Titicaca, the Sacred Valley of the Incans, Easter Islands. So there's going to be a lot of activations in these locations right now. You may be feeling that. You may be called to these grid structures there. I personally have been like literally looking at flights down to Easter Island. It's a very expensive place to try to get to because you really can only get there by a plane and from Peru. And so it just costs a lot just for that specific flight, etc., whatever. I still want to go. I'm being very called to this area right now. I've also been getting a lot of Lyran transmissions from these gates as well, Easter Islands from the Ring of Fire. And they're kind of just saying to me over and over that we are dreaming awake our fate as each one comes alive from the birth canal. Okay, so every child born is our new reality. So no matter what nation comes through the race morphogenetic field, they are now a dreamer creating the shared collective holographic hologram. And so, anywho, I hope you are planning on sticking around. You may want to beam yourself up in some light frequencies to dig into this truth today, because we are going to be diving in. This is a big cosmic grid update. regarding the descending grids in the United States of America. Also, like I said, I'm calling it the bleeding grids. Okay, and I'm just going to focus here, like I said, in the US for this update. But these descending grids are impacting cell programs here globally within the totality of the earthly landmass. Okay, and so when I'm saying cell programs, I am speaking of the blocks in which factors for descending grids is decided through greater energetic mechanisms. Okay, so those mechanisms we can't really acknowledge right now because they're beyond the facets of what the picture we're trying to paint right now. But essentially, they are, the barriers in which particular land masses are actually chosen for decay, chosen for dematerialization, chosen for decline. Okay, and so for those that you may be new to my channel, maybe you don't really know what descension means. So descension means that it is to pass from a higher to a lower place, to move downwards, to come or go down in any way. As by falling, stripping, collapsing, contracting, or deconstructing, dematerializing, all of these would explain dimensional decline. Okay, so these are just words really to describe the totality of descension, but please don't get hung up on the words because it's those details that really just do keep us energetically limited within less ability to actually communicate telepathically and symbolically, which is technically what we actually are doing right now. Everything that I'm passing to you guys is a transmission that is coming through symbolically, particularly when the words are actually altered. More symbols can come through the frequency of those words. Okay, so which those who are communicating symbolically right now are receiving an entirely different encoded message than those who are not listening telepathically with their clairs open. So you'll notice if your clairs are open, you'll get activations on multiple levels, is what I'm saying. And a lot of those will be through symbolism, through geometry, through color frequency, through mathematics, and also through just other types of symbols. Other types of symbols will present and present to you. In the higher density fields, consciousness communicates symbols only. Okay, so that's kind of how you know that you're actually receiving multidimensional messages as you're listening. It will also activate other chambers of reality fields to open up for you too. So maybe something you didn't see before, you can see what I'm seeing, and then it will be like a whole other picture opens up. Okay, and then you can actually go into that picture. That would be astral remote viewing almost. I like to kind of think of it like that. But symbolic language, which is a highly untapped language for humans, that we as a collective are trying to open up more, the symbolic realm almost completely is disregarded. It's hard to fathom those different multidimensional steps of interpreting information and data because it kind of comes in like a toy truck that's just dumped like a ton of freaking Legos or something of all different colors. And so then what happens is your brain actually tries to like sort that those Legos and then tries to actually build something that makes sense with them. And so that's kind of what happens as the information comes in. And that's more so with symbolic. It's a little bit harder to organize those pieces of Legos when it's more symbolic. Anyways, it's one of the most important forms of cosmic language, essentially. Okay, so back to the descending grids, going off on tangents. So the descending grids are land masses that are marked between coordinates, ley lines, surrounding gates, or vortex sites that have taken a noticeable energetic decline, often drastic, dramatic, and appalling declines. Okay, so I guess I'll just go ahead and share my map with you guys as I usually do. So I have my black grid up today. I was working a little bit more on this grid here because it's, in cohesiveness to the topic. This would be my J seal grid where I charted the Jehovah and Anunnaki seals. I marked some important Stargate sites over here that I've always kind of seen as generation points to the J seal vertical ley line where all the J seals have been implanted. But essentially, I just wanted to work on this grid some more. I did highlight some states here that I do feel are descending grids are holding the dominant or most primary amount of descending cell programs, okay, or cell grids. Okay, so just kind of dividing up the land to break down which areas of those grids are actually descending the most, so to speak. Okay, and many of the gate vortexual sites surrounding the declining cell blocks are being used for storing of the negative energies of the negative agendas. Okay, the grids in the descension cycles, the grids that are clearly in descension, fluctuate between 1D to lower level astral and etheric 2D frequency. Okay, so this isn't pretty when humans are actually physically expressing the 1D and the 3D. This is yucky stuff. Okay, guys, it's really like the core or the pit of the most shameful kind of parts of humanity that get kind of expressed in these dimensions. So these realms are often very invisible also to people who have not yet awakened. Okay. The unawakened are having that bioenergetic frequency that fluctuates into the 4D astral. They are experiencing that, but it's capped, it's unconscious, okay? They're unconscious to this because their third eye cannot see outside the 3D experience, okay? So the unawakened can actually live side by side in these denser descending grid locations and not even be able to see the reality fields around them. They actually, they are invisible to this. So some of the areas, at least in California, that are particularly on these massive descending grid cells and grid programs, they can have people within the same like city, within street to street, back to back, with living in these descension implementation into the grids, right? The descending cycle within that, and they are not even aware that they're living right next to that. They're completely, everything's invisible to them. They cannot see it. Just like the invisible controllers, okay? The not sees, they cannot see them because they themselves do not exist on the frequency of the collective. So that's why the invisible controllers are not seen, is because they're not actually on the frequency of this of the humans that are actually residing here. Okay, they are completely different types of entity forms and that are capable of hosting planetary archontic frequency, which is fragmented here in hybrids here on Earth, but within the invisible controllers, I am seeing that this is a greater part of their identity. So the unawakened that are really living next to these descending cell programs, essentially, or these descending cell grids, essentially, when they do actually see the 1D coming through the 3D, it will seem foreign to them. It'll be something that they won't understand. So a lot of times they'll get angry, they'll get annoyed, they'll try to destroy it, they'll try to ignore it, or they'll fluctuate within a level of cognitive dissonance as well. And it's because they don't cohesively fit that dimensional field inside the dimension in which they can see. It doesn't cohesively fit into their ideas of the dimension that they can see. So if something doesn't fit, then their immediate response is to reject its form. Okay. Don't even think about adding compassion or empathy in that at all. Herein lies the major blockages capped at the 10th dimensional field in the biology and also in the Earth's grids through the black sun implants etherically. Okay. So, which is necessary to expand into a much more complex universal tree of life geomancy in the biology that gains you access to the deepest quantum functioning of God's sovereignty in the body. This seal was placed in the 19th century by Aryan occultist Draco Archon hybrids. They placed that black sun seal to cap and limit the 10th dimensional field within the biology and within the earth grids. So removal of this seal unbinds and no longer allows the dead being bonded to the kingdom of hell in passing. Okay. So you can bet your butt there is going to be this black sun seal that is within the grids in California, also within New York, definitely in Nevada. We have it down in Florida, Texas, Denver. Denver's hosting higher seals. Denver's hosting Draco seals. We have Baphomet seals in Michigan. So there's a lot going on here, you guys. These seals are really all over. They are implanted within the horizontal ley lines of the J seals themselves. So that's why I drew these lines over here to show from the J seal markers all the way across the grids and all the way across the major cities. So it's interesting. The two Trinity gates that we have that are harvesting the most loosh in the grids, Malibu Beach, California, sits on a horizontal ley line to one of the initiating J seals. So does Manhattan, which is the other location that's harvesting loosh. Okay, sits on a horizontal corresponding parallel ley line to the J seal. Very interesting, just something to take note of, okay? So removing, though, of that black sun seal is basically removing of the fear of punishment by God in the afterlife. This removes plugs of great illusion and deception, which are the majority of what the unawakened are carrying, and why these descending grids can continue to feed the beast machines, basically. So within the dimension that the awakened can see, they will form these groups of reality bubbles. So majority of these people cannot actually tell the difference between the artificial and the planet's organic frequency, or dead light versus living light. Their bubbles resemble something similar to an artificial holographic reality. So the dimensional field becomes engrossed like a sea foam of artificial thought forms not connected to illumination. And within those bubbles will only appear within it people who are of shared artificial belief systems, right? Because someone who is not awakened cannot identify all the programs running in their energy field or the belief systems they are running autonomously automatic. So it keeps them within a 1/4 third dimensional illumination ratio, and the greater aspects of their minds will remain as invisible observers. And invisible observers are reporting to invisible controllers. Don't ask me how specifically I'm putting these connections together, but this is happening. It just linked like a synapse in my cognitron in my brain when I thought of this. And I feel like this is a part of the seals in some way, that they attach into the cognition of the brain and record data directly through the synapses of your thoughts. Okay. This is one of the ways that they're allowed to stay in power, is because they've already tapped within the tampering of your biology and the physiology of that. Okay, because they feel like they own you, and so they've done experiments. They already know how the brain works, the brain functions. They're creating AI to completely match the functioning of this. Like, they've already decoded this to great degrees. So the people who are unawakened within these descending cell grids, okay, the unawakened people, those that are not able to integrate the lower dimensions into the third dimension. So these are the people most at risk of becoming zombies, cyborgs, and people who are extinguished of all inner light. Okay, so because if they can't integrate collective human shadow in the lower dimensional fields into the 3D, it means that they are carrying more of a soulless template. So like I said, more risk of becoming zombies, cyborgs, because they themselves are extinguished of all inner light. They could also be identified as hybrids, while all hybrid races carry and are holding identities of the archons, like I told you before, but the invisible controllers are holding more planetary archonic identity. Okay. But these beings here on Earth, these hybrid races, they're holding the identities of the archons, clones. They can be considered empty seeders and soulless incarnates. So there are beings here on this earth that are completely not really even human. There are also beings on this earth that literally have no soul whatsoever. They show no emotion. They do not cry for animals. They literally cannot even see anything other than what is directly in front of them to consume for energy. They do not feel empathy for humanity, and they do not feel the earth, let alone realize she is a living dark matter body being invaded by light. Okay, the light is the invader here on this earth. The light is what is invading the darkness. Okay, and so that's why it can feel a lot of times like light is not winning, is because this is a dark matter template. It always has been. Earth is a matter body. Okay, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't attain and hold light within her. But the light is the invading force. This also has to do with the pyramid and the hourglass God geometric technologies. Okay, This is where the feminine God technology comes in, and also more of the symbolic earth grid languages, okay, comes through the feminine God technology. It has something to do with the 3/4 illumination ratios that the pyramid and the hourglass geometrics carry. So you can find a lot of this information that I'm talking about right now in the Nag Hammadi. I'll leave references in the description. The 3 self-generated living energies within descension making identity or consciousness that humans have. Okay. And those 3 self-generated living energies are will, thought, life, with 4 powers that are understanding, grace, perception, and thoughtfulness, creating this 3/4 illumination ratio of the eternal realms of spirit. That's what the pyramids represent. Okay. If you come down on a pyramidal viewpoint, they are a 3/4 ratio of illumination, no matter where the sun is hitting them. Okay, unless it's like 12 o'clock noon or something, but there's still going to be a 3/4 because there will always be one side of the pyramid that is somewhat reflecting shadow. Now, these descending grids consume, feed, and generate to other mechanical energetic systems on the earth grids because all is living and interconnected here. So when you're looking at the United States here, you want to really look at this as an entire and fluctuation of a descending earth grid that's broken down into cell structures, basically like little prisons, prisons. Okay, because several gates are used specifically for these transduction processes. So wherever there's more gates is where you're going to have more of those cell grids breaking down. Okay. These are types of exchanges like funnels and etheric centric circle matrices and heightened descending grid cells. I kind of think of it like a drainage system for harvested loosh. Like I told you, 2 of those that we currently have here are in Manhattan and also in Malibu Beach, California, but also Los Angeles. We also are having more installation of these that are going down in Colorado. Nevada is carrying these. We have Texas, we have Florida, we have Michigan. There's other locations as well. Alaska and Hawaii are also said to have these as well. And as more loosh becomes available for energetic food sources, more of those concentric gate sites will be continue to be installed across the grids until they've pretty much taken over the entire landmass itself. But every grid cell on this earth at this time has been energetically assigned for over 500,000 years to the rights of energy usage settlements, for control matrices, to the invisible controllers, to the theys, and their galactic participants, and the nations assigned to take the bad guys' role of perception, that have learned how to tamper with the Earth's grids beyond the subatomic manifestation field and hijacked the control stations, basically. Sorry, I have to take a drink because I talk too much. But there's just so much information to get you guys. It's just really important. So if you have to rewind and go back and kind of listen to some of this over again, I wouldn't be surprised in this update. I am going very, very quickly. There's just so much that I want to get out about these descending grids. Maybe I'll just consider this an introduction video as I continue to map more of this. I would really like to get to a point that I could break down the actual cell programs running within each cells. So that would be my goal. But again, all of this takes time to really kind of review energetically, telepathically. And so you know how I do. Now, these invisible controllers that have really hijacked things, these are global planetary geniuses of intelligence, if you really ask me. They've kind of presented to me literally like genies or jinns. It's almost as if they are not innately evil or innately good. They are just spirits that are able to adapt and expand regarding the circumstances on Earth. And because of that, they've allowed to attain territory for much longer on this Earth and have learned how to master and hijack these types of things and take over the mechanics and feed the beast machine. The beast machine is a collective field of that accumulativeness over the many, many years of being able to adapt and essentially expand regarding Earth circumstances here. Again, like I said, that perspective takes us into making us our own Ouroboros, consuming and eating our own tail. Okay, so Coming back to the grid, each descending grid location is unique in the way it affects people in society, in starseeds and indigos. These are the most impacted demographic and have the highest genetic trail in the multitude ways of that decline. Okay. They are the ones that are suffering the most. And a lot of starseeds do not make it out of this. A lot of starseeds do not survive these manipulations, and they end up homeless. They end up on the streets. Okay. And we can say that these are drug addicts and all of these things. No, these are people that had heightened bioenergetic fields that were taken over by the dark forces here. Okay. All I can take is someone getting the jab and becoming sick and losing their job and not being able to go to work. Things like this. These are other starseeds and things that have had circumstances happen to basically get them in these situations, right? I know a lot of you right now, I want to send out my love to you guys right now. I know a lot of people right now are having to choose between their own divine will and their own divine sovereignty, their free will, and are being put in positions to either have to lose their job or get the job and things like this. And so I've had maybe like 3 or 4 people within the last week just message me and just really be upset about having to make these choices, feeling like their backs are up against the wall. Like there's just so much stress. Like they know what's coming. They know they're going to have to make these decisions to, either change their life and exit out of the 9-to-5 grind and out of the control matrices and really start to try to like redefine their lives more sovereign from the system. And so I just want to send my love to all of you who are going through that right now. I know it's a very hard time, but those of us, there's many of us who are sitting on the other side right now, and we're just waiting for you to come join us. Okay. We're sitting on the other side. I am on the other side. I am not participating in any of that as we speak. I've removed myself from the 9-to-5 grind. I removed myself from ways in which these laws and rules can tamper with my energy field. Okay. And you have the power to do the same. So I just want to send my love and send my encouragement to be able to step up and redesign your life, even though these things are hard and these things are scary. But some of you are getting pushed to make those major choices right now, to either take the job or to take a new career path at this point in their journey. So lots of love to you guys. But some of these descending grids, they do feed wormhole matrices that power and generate 2 black hole systems. Some feed the dark lords on Saturn, Venus, the dark side of the moon, the Plutonian plutocracy overlords, like planetary archons, like I told you, with Saturn being the most powerful, impacting the control matrices on the Earth. Some feed the recycle system here. Some communicate directly to and from seal matrices, coordinating timeline programs, traumas, triggers, and collective pain bodies to activate according to those timeline triggers. Okay. So they can, if they want to run REN triggers into the horizontal ley lines across the grids across the United States, they can do that through the J seals. If they want to run Atlantean traumas and triggers and wounds, they can run those horizontally. They can pump the low field frequencies through that, and everything propagates west. Everything flows west. And it's because of the magnetic pull from that ring of fire. The ring of fire is actually pulling currents that way. Okay. And some of these bleed out and infringe human rights, propagating Salem witch hunts. So this is often when we see like those breakouts that we just seen in Texas, where we have women's rights basically being infringed down in Texas. Okay. They pumped that grid full of fear frequency, low field frequency, LFFs, low field frequency, and they, propagate these Salem witch hunts and things like this. So these are just symptoms and manifestations of these things and the biochemical warfare that we see playing out in more severe ways. It's become increasingly more or less politically, socially, and economically unstable in these locations. The grid may have become heavy with pollution, corruption, poverty, riddled with crime, bankruptcy, and drugs. Okay, this is just a symptom of star seeds falling, people. These are star seeds. These are indigos that have fell and have been irreversibly, in a lot of ways, up against what they're what they're doing within the cell programs, okay? The negative vibrational frequency has become amplified in these areas, overall impacting and reflecting throughout the communities. And so this is how the beast machines are working through impacting demographic areas are with collapsing magnetic fields by focusing on smaller cell block units, breaking down the field, and then moving to the next cell block. You can really see that in California. I would say this is where it's most probably like most dynamically highlighted is we have areas like Los Angeles, Venice Beach, Skid Row, Malibu Beach. Portions of these areas, these are specific cell grids that have all been really anchored down with that tampering. Okay, so it's going to continue to break out within those grids, though. It's going to continue to expand. It's not just going to stop there because they like to get those specific cell block units into a locked polarization. And so this is where the areas of the polarization are almost felt like in the most extreme frozen states. But they do expand out to other cell block units from there. They are impacting it with tapped ley lines where they cut off organic energy supplies, or the lines bleed out to specific areas, leaving them barren with dead light and pockets, fields within the pre-matter. Okay, you can really, really feel this in California. I mean, this is where it's probably the most prevalent in the entire United States. That in New York City. But they are also, like I said, they're pumping the ley lines with those low field frequencies, usually generated from global war zones, okay? Everything is coming from the Middle East right now. Everything is coming from the war zones. Everything is coming from the man-made stargates and hives. So the Kaaba, things like this. Okay, these are generation spiritual technologies, collective spiritual technologies, and hive technologies that they're using to power up vortexes to control quantum systems to basically feed those triggers, traumas from the Lemurian Akashic fields, vortex sites, things like this that ultimately pull back to their black whole worm system. Okay, they are using the implant siphoning systems technology, aka the 70-degree west vertical ley line, where the J seals are located, to implement this here in the United States. Okay, this is how they're doing it here, with 2 identified global seal matrices running on Earth. So the J seals are most impactfully affecting the United States. The Draco seals most impactfully at this time affecting the more northern countries. So like Norway, Antarctica, and also all of the countries that are riding that 0-point vertical ley line, which is the United Kingdom, all of these places, all of these locations, okay? Germany. They also have inundation of biochemical warfare and so on and so forth. There is an entire level 1 base mechanics in which we see the subatomic grid tampering that modify and alter to produce levels of what appear to be these symptomatic symptoms, such as aggressively handing out those triggers in the collective wound bodies and pockets and areas of the nations that are holding the genetic encoding to the program of those triggers to run the sequencing for chaotic distractions. And that's exactly what we've seen with the Salem witch hunts down in Texas, okay? This is toxicity that is very multi-level. And so beneath the human's awareness capacity to see it, that the entire grid itself does seem to be rigged. So they have taken over Terra and they placed a conflict in between shadow and light. And you can see this as artificial insemination. Your nation has been artificially inseminated, okay? And it wasn't birthed from the Ring of Fire, because now we have less natural connections that will occur and this has been declining for some time, people. Like, this is nothing new and you guys know it. But what's happening here, which is truly, truly sad, is a lot of people are really locked in this soulmate twin flame thing. They can't figure out why they're in separation. You really think it's supposed to be like this? You really think all the twins are supposed to be in misery and separation and having these traumatic karmic twin experiences? No, it's happening because your grid cell block programs are being deteriorated and the magnetic fields are being warped and they're being polluted and they're being tampered and they're breaking down the actual cell programs. Okay. So because of this, twin flames will not be able to come together. We will have less true 5D soul incarnates occur and incarnate because of this, because of the forced breeding programs and everything that they're doing within the seal matrices. And you have to think about that in terms of things too. So why would Earth consciousness allow for 5D unions to exist when the 144 are needed here now? Okay. The twins are the 144s, okay? And the 144s are supposed to step up in mission right now. They are needed right now for global missions, okay? Those who are tampering in separation fields of the twin flame union are not aligned to anything that's happening on New Earth. I can promise you that, okay? Less 5D unions are allowed to occur when these magnetic fields are being tampered. And I don't mean to say this, guys, because I do have compassion for the twin collective. Like, I totally get it. But you have to look at the greater picture of what's going on here on Earth. This is not aligned right now because we need our warriors right now. We need our alphas, healthy masculine alphas to step up, which there is none. There is none right now. Okay, they've all been emasculated and progenicized with progesterone. Okay, so 5D unions are not allowed to occur. They cannot occur because the magnetic field's being tampered and the cell block programs are breaking down. It is a way to bring down a fallen 7D Tara and run it through the descending grids. This pushes forward artificial creation of hybrids with archon templates, clones of the spirit seed of the monad. And these souls are prisoners of the monad. They operate through red light, the doors of the iron networks. These are best described as prison cells. So that's where they are. They're in prison cells. So again, guys, locations that are descending grids. Okay, so you can see my map here. I know I've been yapping and not talking about the grid specifically, but that's because I had so much explanation to break down. You know how it goes. Thank you for staying with me. I love you so much. I know I'm a little all over the place. As per usual, that's just multidimensionality. So I kind of charted this grid is definitely not finished for me. So I just really charted a few of the major ones that are having, like I said, the most clusters or cloisters of broken down cells. Okay. And so they are dominantly, mostly right now, they are coastal states with the largest and biggest major cities, right? Because this is where they can ultimately soul nap the most starseeds and indigos. These states have different qualities to their descending grid. So what makes them descending grids is the highest homelessness rates, the highest crime rates, the highest drug rates, the highest suicide rates, the highest school shooting rates, highest terrorism rates, largest income wealth gaps, meaning you're either super rich or you have nothing, and there's no thriving middle class. There's no thriving middle class in California, definitely not in Colorado, and not in New York either. So it's you're either super rich or you're super poor, with the most economic refugees. And the economic refugees here in the United States, we have a lot of refugees. We have over 580,000 refugees here in the United States that are not acknowledged. Okay, and that would be the homeless population. Highest political instability in these areas, these representing those symptoms I talked about earlier that manifest due to the subatomic earth fields being so tampered. So if you could see the magnetic field dome over the United States, because we have domes over the United States, we have smaller domes over certain cities, we have smaller domes over certain cell blocks. And so you could see why people gathered to the coastal regions in the first place is because once upon a time, there was a healthy magnetic field. And there still is. I mean, there's still a lot of these natural forces that bring natural essences of that magnetic field, but overall it's primarily tampered. Okay. And so when the magnetic dome begins to weaken within the planetary field, so does everybody's individual bioenergetic field. So like I said, if you are 12D activated, this is going to impact you immensely. Ascension symptoms, okay, they are comparative to radiation exposure symptoms for a reason. They're basically one and the same thing. Okay, this begins to weaken the human central nervous system. It weakens, impacting the bioneurology, which is the instruction code to the endocrine system and the cerebral fluid. This is why the hormones go crazy, especially when someone is going through ascension. This is what kicks people off to become sensitive to spiritual energies. This is what kicks people off to become sensitive to chemicals, okay? All of a sudden no longer can stand meat, these types of things. This is because the endocrine system has been altered, okay? The conditions and the energetic quality in the grid shift. People will begin to move and begin to seek refuge elsewhere. So starseeds are the most who are 12D. You'll need to relocate out of these areas. You need to relocate to areas that are less inundated by these types of distortions, or else it's not really, the grids are not going to support your light body because they are being hijacked and tampered with. So, and it won't be a long time before your body just really starts to completely break down. Okay. And you slowly start to see that over time. And the symptoms start to stack up. So before you were just dealing with one or two things, and now you're dealing with like 10 things. Okay. That's when you really start to realize that you are actually being poisoned. Okay. So some of the areas I wanted to kind of highlight, I think I just mentioned this, but Detroit, Michigan. So Detroit, Michigan, they've had basically Draco contracts exploited and gone bad. They hold global Baphomet seals here. They have the largest cell program still bleeding from the planetary J seals. So this is a bloody grid in Detroit, Michigan here. They're running severe forms of the recycling programs, with many being recycled here against divine will and divine timing. Humans here, high crime rate, high drugs, high murder rate, the highest murder rate in the United States, highest suicide rates. New York, okay. And I'm talking New York City, but multiple locations in New York City, Manhattan, Bronx, Queens, New York City, several galactic deals, most intergalactic slave trades and deals done here, by far the most intergalactic international deals done here. Most operatives undercover, psychological and biochemical warfare experiments. We had the Montauk projects running on the coast of New York City. Many starseeds here couldn't overcome genetic manipulation and DNA splicing modifications and generational jabs, okay? Because it's not just now, we're talking about all the times that the jabs have come in to supposedly try to eradicate, illnesses that have been unleashed upon the people from the not sees, the ones we cannot see. So the World Death Organization, of course. So the city has extremely high homelessness rate, deals here to entrap crystal children the most. Unfortunately, New York City is the #1 grid cell program that is entrapping crystal children the most. So it's a lot of attacks here on young indigos. Moderate to severe recycling programs here. There is a known gate site here, like I told you before, Manhattan, that ties into the beast machine. Now, the other one that I want to talk about is California. Of course, I want to get to a point I could talk about every state, and I'll be going a lot slower and going in more detail, but I'm going really fast. I'm sorry, guys. California. So California, multiple locations, Skid Row, Venice Beach, Los Angeles, Malibu Beach. They have the most severe recycling programs here. Many starseeds here really couldn't overcome genetic manipulation, DNA splicing modifications. It's very, very, very sad. These are the ones that have been irreversibly damaged. Okay. And also from the generational jabs, irreversibly damaged from generational jabs. So the city has extremely high homelessness rates, extremely high drug trafficking, crime rates. Crystal children are also under attack here as well. The Stargate in Malibu Beach feeds directly into the beast machine as well. And as you can see here, guys, I have it charted on that horizontal ley line that extends from the J seal. So you can see how the beast machine would be operating off of the J seal implants here in the grids, which we are doing a really good job at eradicating and moving these out of people's biological energy fields. A lot of clients have come through and have removed a lot of their seals personally with me, and I know other people are doing these seal removals as well. So it's not just me, but it is sending a major reverse reverberation message back to the core of the earth that these distortions are no longer needed here, and we are asking for healing on this earth. If you would like to be a part of any type of group work that I have coming up soon on 9/11, I will be doing a group on my Patreon, patreon.com/IndigoAngel. If you'd like to be a part of that, where we're actually going to go into some of these descending grid sites. We're going to focus on 9/11 on the New York site, but we're going to focus on healing particular gate sites, grid cells, descending grids in the New York City area. And we'll also focus on also in the Middle East as well, in Afghanistan, because it does relate to the things that are going on over there as well, because that's where a lot of the low field frequencies are being pumped from, is the war zones and things like this. So we're going to focus on that in my group session on my Patreon, patreon.com/IndigoAngel. Please feel free to join. I'd love to have you for that group session. It will be group telepathy, group remote viewing, group channeling, everything you can name it. If anyone needs healing, we'll come around you in a circle of love, pump you up, and then get you focused on the grids, okay? So I love you all so much. This is my update for today. I hope you have a beautiful and blessed cosmic everything. I hope that this message was not just gruelingly depressing. I'm giving this message because it is important for us to understand what's happening in our nation here in the United States. It's important to understand that the attacks that we're receiving are very, very deep within the etheric and the subatomic and the control systems of the invisible controllers here on Earth. So we need to wake up and we need to make things conscious. We need to make them visible. That's the only way that light can be shined on these things and things can ultimately be resolved. So if I have to be the one that has to go into the thick of this stuff and expose it, it's really no sweat off my back, because I know I'm aligned to my mission, and I know that I'm doing the right thing by bringing this up to awaken other people to the tampering that's really taken place. Just really quick, I'll just go ahead and show you another map in case you're wondering about this beast machine. I believe I had it in my Atlantis grid. This one was a video that I did not too long ago, but these look like just a bunch of dots, that I've charted here. But this is the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. This is the Kaaba. This is the Eye of Sahara. This is the Bermuda Triangle. And this is one of the hijacked decoy locations to some of this siphoning that they're doing. But a lot of the technology is following these particular ley lines that cross over and hit the J seals right there on that 70-degree west that runs up into North America. And so it comes from and extends into these greater mechanics that are happening over here. If you'd like to learn more about that, please check out the Atlantean Syrian grid update that I just put out. I'll leave links in the descriptions to everything that I mentioned in this video today. And again, I love you all so much. Again, be sure to find me on my website, IndigoAngel222.com. Sign up for that website newsletter. And I love you all so much. Have a beautiful everything. Namaste.